Hey everyone, welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your media and tech-related production questions every single day. Alexander Knight is our reader today, but this morning we have a special treat for you. For a while now, one of the hottest technologies in modern video production has been the use of so-called LED volumes, those instantly adjustable live plate backgrounds that are now playing such a huge role in gaming, film, TV, and all sorts of content creation. Today, our longtime friend Nick Justison of Drexel University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, along with some of his students and associates, are nearing the end of their installation of a new state-of-the-art virtual stage, and Nick has agreed to give us a backstage tour. So, Nick, good morning, and welcome back to Office Hours.
Thanks for having me back.
I understand this is a pretty cutting-edge screen away. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I don't know how cutting edge gets used a lot. I mean, this technology is very well established at this point. But just as a quick demo, the idea is a shot could look like this, where my student Kai is going to start rolling the camera dolly. You're seeing the camera feed from this. And there are physical elements here in the studio with me, and then a digital background. So the idea behind this setup is that it's essentially zero cost once you have everything set up to have any kind of set pieces in the digital background. So we selected this particular background because it has a bunch of props in it that we have in the studio. So these cases and all. But to give you an idea of what this looks like for real, this is the real world studio setup. So there is the LED wall is the most obvious piece to that. And what makes it particularly cutting edge is that it comes from a company called Aoto, and the individual pixels are 1.5 millimeters in size each, and it's nearly seamless between them. The other thing about them is they're in cases that are designed to absorb light, so we get the blackest blacks that we can out of it, especially as a lot of the lighting is aimed so that it's not spilling onto that wall at all. And in addition to the pixel pitch itself, meaning the size of the pixel, the system is also set up to synchronize perfectly with all the other important equipment in the studio. So the camera itself is a studio video camera that's getting gen lock, so that every time its shutter is opening and closing, it is exactly timed with when all the LEDs in the wall are firing. So this wall is 20 feet wide and 10 feet high. So we're running it at essentially Ultra HD resolution. And it is being controlled by something called a Brompton, is the company that makes it, SX40. So the SX40 is basically the HDMI input for this individual wall. And that is distributing the video signal across all of the actual panels that make up the walls. The wall is very modular. There's a panel for every 500 millimeters. So we have 12 columns and 6 rows to get our 20-foot by 10-foot size. And so again, what makes this really special is the size of the pixels, the brightness of the pixels, and the fact that they can be perfectly synchronized with the shutter of the camera, as well as the data coming from the motion capture system that follows the camera's movement. So all of this equipment is synchronized to the same clock. That's an Evertz 5601 Genlock clock that's keeping everything in time. So that's kind of the overview of the tech. Yeah.
Well, it looks really, really sophisticated. How long has it taken for the installation process? How long have you been working on building this?
So the installation process was kind of like putting together a Lego kit. I honestly very much believe in experiential learning, so I didn't learn very much. I just stepped back, and the students actually built this wall. So we did have experts from the 209 group and video wall experts come in and direct the students, but really the students did the work of putting it together, and we cracked open the cases at around noon on the day that we set up, and by 6 o'clock we were out at dinner. And
really? Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And out at dinner point, we had the wall operational running, and displaying graphics and everything. And then we went away for a week. The experts went out, and we had a couple more pieces to add the following week, and it was just myself and the students, we ended up, hooking up the mocap system, and it was a couple hours between when the students started taking a scene they had built already. We had been using a projection screen for this type of work in the past. So they had that scene ready to go. So in about 2 hours or so, they had it configured specifically for this LED wall, and we ran that within hours. So the entire thing, beginning to end, could have been done in a single workday. Had we started 9 a.m. and worked to 5, in one day we could have had it from empty room, crates sealed, to fully operational camera tracking with a scene.
Nice. I noticed in the wide shot that Christmas tree looking thing kind of drew my eye on top of the camera. That must be something to do with the motion tracking. Can you explain kind of a little bit about how sophisticated that is?
Yeah. So Laura, for camera 4, can you go to scene 2? There we go. So that's a close-up of John and Kai are on the camera work there. Kai's driving the dolly and John's on camera. So we call that piece on top a crown or a constellation. It goes by a few different names. Some people call it a Sputnik. The reality of it is that each of those sticks has a reflective ball on the end of it. Honestly, if you're familiar with camera equipment, you know that a flat plate with a lot of screw holes in it is called a cheese plate because it looks like a piece of Swiss cheese. And in the center of this is a Manfrotto product that is a ball with a lot of screw holes in it, so I call that a cheese ball. I don't know. I don't think that's the official product name.
This is hors d'oeuvres production.
Yeah, exactly. Each of the, I apologize to the Manfrotto engineers that made a ton of work. It's a beautiful piece of equipment, and I'm calling it a cheese ball. Each stalk is actually just a 6-inch zinc bolt from a big box store, hardware store, and I just spray painted those black. And I have a mini lathe at home. You can get them for a few $100 on eBay or Amazon or whatever. And I just milled off the hex end of each of those bolts and threaded them for our reflective markers. So that constellation of markers is seen by our mocap system. Laura, I don't know if you can bring the Vicon system up on your screen, on the screen 1 maybe. We're just going to toggle over here, and I'll show you the tracking system that is following this. So you're seeing the real world version of this, and if I show you, this is the software that is the motion capture system. So the triangles in orbit are all of the mocap cameras that see the thing. And Laura, if you could zoom in on the camera 1. So there we go. So that's what that looks like, that constellation. It's just seeing the reflective balls that are designated in yellow, and that constellation moving is driving that camera position.
Nice. And so when you're in the Unreal Engine system that is kind of the back end of this, that is getting all this data, and it's allowing you to manipulate the set around the camera position and your actors and whatever else is on there to keep everything geometrically correct. Am I getting that right?
Exactly. So if, Laura, can you try camera 6, scene 2? I think that shows you and Nikki. Is scene 2 or scene 3 maybe? There we go. Okay. So Laura waved just there, and I'm sorry the autofocus of this camera isn't the best in low light. But Laura's running the mocap system and obviously the PTZs. And then Nikki there in the glasses is running what we call our art department computer. And have you already brought up the NDI monitor on PC1? So this is what's on screen on Nikki's computer. And so what that is doing is it's actually, like if you're playing a game like Fortnite and you're playing on your game console, you're connected with your friends and they're on their individual game console, everybody's moving their characters around and shooting and hiding and all that stuff, and you're all seeing the same game at the same time. Essentially, that's what's going on here, where on Nikki's computer, he's running Unreal Engine, he's got the scene, and let me see if I can super source this, and how does the super source look here? And okay, great. So you can see Nikki's screen, you can see what the scene looks like for me, and you can see the overall studio. So in Nikki's computer, if he takes that ladder in the background and starts moving it around, just like in the video game Fortnite, the computer that's running the screen is a separate computer. It's running its own copy of Unreal Engine, but it's receiving essentially the character information about that ladder from from the art department computer. So it's the virtual art department, VAD or VAD computer. And so that's how this whole thing operates. So if a director says, you know what, that ladder there, can you move it to the other side of the screen? I can tell Nikki, like, he would be, you know, someone who's a prop master or gaffer or whatever, and then he could move it over there. Nah, I actually liked it back on the original side, so go ahead and put it back where you got it, and there you go. And you know what? Actually, I want a second ladder. Are you able to Alt-click drag, and will that generate a second ladder for both machines? Yes, it does. There we go. So now we have a second ladder. Put that ladder on the other side of the screen over here. And so that quickly we're doing our set dressing, and then you could spin that around, or you know what? Never mind. Just delete that one. So that's,
you can obviously see why this is so popular. Look at the amount of money to get a crew member to go get a second ladder, to bring it to set it in the right place, to get the lighting and the cameras all set. That's a significant time investment and labor investment, and you just did it in a half a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think the physical equipment of this facility takes a good bit of time to save up for and acquire. It's not inexpensive, but it is scalable. So, again, I'm at a nonprofit university. Somehow we were able to acquire this particular wall. Talk to Tom at 209 Group or Carl at Video Wall Experts. And it's not sponsored. I am just incredibly grateful to them and AOTA for coming through with this for us at what we could afford. Because a facility like this as a studio rental it's easily five figures. And depending on what city you're in, I mean, in a place like LA, for something like this, it might be $30,000 a day. If you're lucky in an area like Philadelphia, I don't even want to quote, because there's a studio, Keystone Studios in Philadelphia, that does this, and I don't want to speak for what their pricing is. Whatever it is, it's worth it, because all of the digital set pieces are just pixels, so they're weightless, and you can acquire, like this particular set I did actually buy. So this sci-fi set that's behind us, I'll switch back to camera 4. That set is actually a very vast environment space. It's kind of like a Death Star trench, really. And we actually brought just a tiny piece of it in here, but for $150, that's there. And I mean, I've seen music videos. I think, who was it? Who's the violinist? Lindsey Sterling, yeah. There's a Lindsey Sterling video that came out last year, and I can see in there several sets that are available completely free from the Unreal Engine's asset library. And so there's a lot that you can do for very little expense once you have the wall in place. There's no getting around the fact that a wall like this is not cheap. So.
Nick, this is so cool. We are an interactive show, and we have an audience watching, and they've been putting questions in. So I'm going to toss it to Alexander to go through a couple of these questions, because we've gotten, as always, really exceptional questions here.
First question's coming from Alex Lindsay in Novato, California, USA. How much power is needed to run this stage?
Oh, great question. So again, with this wall, we have 72 panels. Each are 500 by 500 millimeters. And that takes us 5 20 amp, 120 volt circuits. So we're running at 100 amps right now for this particular wall. And that's just the wall itself. We have another 20 amp circuit running the RenderBox computer and the Brompton and some other minor electronics, like a Elgato Stream Deck that helps manage some of this stuff. We're at 120 amps total right there. But that's it for just the wall. And we are using 110 volt lines, and we're just using 5 20 amp ones.
Let's get to our next question.
This one's from Ronnie Hofso in Tromsø, Norway. What tools and workflows do you recommend for calibrating lighting in video and photo production to match foreground subjects and backgrounds? How do you address the uncanny valley effect for seamless integration?
Nick?
Oh, lots of things there. Great question. Number one, light meters, and number two is false color on your cameras. So actually, John, if you're able to go into the settings and find your way to false color for your camera and to output false color to the SDI, I'm not sure do you want me to come over and help you with that? I can come over and do that. Can you do scene 2 on PTZ4? And there we are. Do you have that? No, that's on the LCD. So now SDI and our monitor setup. SDI.
False color is one of the technologies that changed my whole use of.
Are we getting false color from this camera? We're not yet. So we need. There it is. There we go.
There it is.
So I mean, this is approximate. This is not necessarily as numerically accurate as a genuine light meter would be. But the things that we're looking at is the purple is indicating the very low darks, the lowest darks on my black sweatshirt. And we're looking to see that the darks in the digital scene have that same exposure value. They're not lower, they're not higher. If you wouldn't mind zooming out a little bit, John, one of the other things is there's a digital kino over here. And so at the highest whites are being indicated in red there. And this is our physical kino right here. And again, it's getting the same red values. And then my face is in the grays and greens. So like that's what we're using really to try and work that. Another component to this, and you can go ahead and deactivate that false color for the SDI. Another component to this is having physical elements in the set. So Laura, if you could go back to scene 1 on camera 4. The scene itself having a ladder, and we have a physical ladder, helps sell the illusion. The physical kino, mirroring the fake kino. Some of it too is lighting, color temperature, right? So the digital kino has a daylight cast blue to it. And so in the studio here, we have a separate LED panel that's daylight balanced. In fact, it's a daylight balanced with a daylight blue gel on it to make it a little extra blue so that my lighting has that daylight color on one side and the golden sunlight in the scene is actually reflecting off of my very shiny head as a result of the tungsten bulbs in the kino. So those are some of the things that we do for that.
The devil's in the details. It looks like you've handled them extraordinarily well. Let's go to our next question.
Alex Lindsay, Nevada, California, USA. Do you have any Moire issues at certain angles?
Nick?
So it's not so much at angles, it's where we focus. Laura, can you go on camera 4, scene 2 again? If we're looking here, one of the things we did on our focus wheel is, and this is, I think, something that can be activated or deactivated. Yeah, okay. So we have a focus stop on this right now. So I'm deactivating that focus stop. And the focus stop on this wheel is set up so that we don't accidentally focus behind me. So I'm going to deactivate that safety for John. And so now John's able to focus further behind me. And so without changing the angle, you can see we can introduce Moire by focusing on the wall more. But then if he focuses more in front of me where I'm at the back end of the field, or the depth of field in terms of focus, then that Moire goes away. It's in the blur. It's in the bokeh. And now we've reactivated that safety so he can just roll forward with the focus wheel, and that basically avoids the Moire.
Let's go to our next question.
Scott Tupper in Livermore, California. Nick, what is the size and pitch of your LED wall?
Yep. So the size of the entire wall, 20 feet wide, 10 feet high. The pitch is 1.5 millimeters per pixel. The large modules are 500 by 500 millimeters each. That's a cabinet. But the tiniest module is a 4-pixel pack. And I can hold one of those on the tip of my finger. It's kind of just a little bit larger than a grain of sea salt.
Really? Is that in case like a pixel burns out or something like that, you can replace something that small? Or how would you use it? I
can't replace it. So if a pixel dies or falls off or gets, we send to the cabinet, or we send the cabinets each have 4 modules containing a lot of those pixel collections. So what ends up happening is if we use up a pixel module, we have to pack that up and send it back to AOTO for warranty replacement. And
Makes sense.
They can do it. So the interesting thing, and this is information that Tom from 209 shared with me, is that 209 maintains an inventory of those pixel modules from a given factory run. So there's a set of, a collection of pixels that are a particular factory run. Just like when you mix paint, you want it all mixed at the same time, so you don't have multiple shades of the same shade. AOTA maintains an inventory of the individual modules, so that if a module were to die entirely or get lost, get banged in transport or whatever, they have an inventory to be able to replace those, and it's all color matched.
Nice. Next question.
Alex Lindsay, Nevada, California. How solid is camera tracking to the stage in background?
Nick?
Yeah, right now, I think we've really worked out our sweet spot on that. I'm really happy with it. If I put on the super source here, and so you can see my camera as well as John moving there. I guess we're in the smaller views right now. But we have a very capable Vicon motion capture system. The motion capture system is actually operating at 120 frames a second. Its cadence is dictated by the 30 frames per second that the Evertz Genlock signal is set up to. And so the Vicon system is actually sampling the position of that crown 4 times for every video frame. And we have a 10 gigabit network installed, so that as Vicon, actually, Laura, if you wouldn't mind bringing Vicon back up on your screen. So as Vicon is tracking the camera, that data is being sent out over our 10 gigabit network, and that's connected to the render box, independent of the box that's our VAD box. So right now, it is really, really, really solid. And we could do that with multiple cameras as well.
Nick, this has been an incredible look behind the scenes. I can tell this may be something we want to come back to and revisit again in the future. We have so many people who have put questions in. We're going to go to the regular show now, but I just wanted to thank you, your students there, and everybody else. You're clearly helping Drexel stay near the cutting edge. Come
on out here.
Come out
so we can all wave.
Say hi.
So we've got Matt, Nikki, Laura, John, and Matt was all set to be like a background character here, and there he goes. But anyway, thank you so much for having us. We're all on camera 4 now, guys. And I really appreciate getting a chance to share with you, and thanks for all the questions.
Outstanding. Maybe we can do one of the evening sessions or something like that and go into even more detail, because I'm sure the questions will keep coming. This has been really exciting. So thank you all in Philadelphia for giving us a look at the system.
Sounds great. Thanks, Bill.
Take care, Nick. Bye-bye. Let's get back to regular things. Alex, Alexander Knight. What's the next question we have for you?
This question is coming from Andy Kokendorfer in Vieira, Florida. At a recent conference with a farsite using a meeting owl, several execs commented that the automated changing shot to follow the active speaker was distracting. They favored more static shots. Thoughts?
I've run into this kind of thing. Sometimes we get enamored of the technology that we have and we want to use it, but sometimes the simplest thing, I can't tell you the number of times that I've had something on a set. In fact, I had it once. I was shooting a ball player in Bank One Ballpark in Arizona back when it was named that. And I had one of the stars of the team sitting there doing a pitch, and we had very little time with him. He came down. We pulled a dolly, I had a jib arm, I had everything, and I wanted to use the ballpark background and have some nice, sweet, moving shot. Within the middle of the first take, I thought, this is not going to work, and I had to lock down everything. I could have brought a tripod and done the same thing. My point is that sometimes all the complexity you plan for just doesn't help you get the shot executed correctly, and you have to drop back to let's keep things simple. It's not always the case, but I have found that in the real world as well. Ronnie Hofsoy wanted to weigh in on this.
Yeah, I find it very annoying if the camera is too tight on the talent, and the tracking might be a little bit slower than a fast-moving talent that is walking forth and back on the stage. So I can understand the annoying part of this, and that people find it a little bit distracting. That said, there are technologies out there, for instance, Panasonic, Sony, etc., which have on their larger and new models a really solid tracking, which not only track eyes and face focus, but actually have an AI model of the entire body. So they call it body tracking, kind of, and that is really amazing to see in real life. We tested that on the show floor, and it is amazing to watch. So I haven't tested the Meeting Owl, but I would be thinking that maybe some of the newer, more expensive cameras or PT sets do have auto tracking that is more pleasing, maybe, if that is possible to say.
Let's go to our next question.
Harold Williams in Portsmouth. I would like to use my Deity TC-1 to sync my HyperDeck with my roaming cameras. Is it possible to extract the audio file from the HyperDeck while retaining the timecode metadata?
This is a bit more beyond my. I don't use the Deity TC-1. I've been around them on sets, and I'm not really sure whether you can extract it. Most of the time, I found. So let me say this. When I used to copy data a lot, when I started out, I copied files, and I learned not to do that. Instead of copying files, I copied volume. Why? Because the volume usually has volume metadata that goes along with the individual file metadata, and I was losing that when I tried copying audio files or video files, as opposed to cloning the volume that mounted a disk volume or a remote server volume. If I copied the volumes, I often preserve the metadata. Now, if you preserve it, it's possible to go in with tools and extract it. So I'm not sure in this particular case because I don't use those tools, but I would explore trying to keep whatever metadata you have and learn a little bit about how to preserve metadata. It's very important and very valuable. And I do see people just copying like audio files and things across from drive to drive, and they're detaching it from that volume metadata that can be very useful. Next question.
David Brady in New York City, New York. Anyone have any experience with Savy Camera stands? Curious of real-world best use cases.
I've never used one, but I pulled it up. Let's see if I can get a picture of it. Here you go. I was impressed. It looks like we used to have things that did this kind of job. Let me go through a couple of the pictures here. It looks like a very robust pole mount. And then there's a pan tilt head, also some sort of elevation controls on the top of it. What got me, and you'll see a picture of it here coming up, was headphone hangers integrated, and there was a drink holder and I thought, okay, these people who designed this system clearly understand what is required for an operator in the back of a auditorium or a church or something like that has to sit there for long periods of time. It looks well for something not in the tripod form, and then there's bowl heads and things like that. Overall, I just looked at this and said, this is a well-engineered product. Somebody who understands production spent some time designing and making this happen. And it's a nice-looking product. It doesn't have some of the, let me go back to that kind of wide shot. So just based on what I'm seeing here, I've never used it, but it looks like it's well-engineered and well-designed to do the task it's going to do. I don't imagine it's terribly inexpensive because it looks like it's pretty well built. But on this kind of a array, I would be more suspect about the box and its mass to keep people from sitting on it and jiggling the camera than I would about the actual camera support itself. That looks pretty robustly built, and I would be pretty positive about that as a purchase where I'm looking for something like that. Next question.
This one's coming from Guy Cochran in Seattle, USA. Approximately what percentage of the Office Hours audience do you think actively watches the video of the show versus listens to the audio of the show?
I think this is a question best for Alex. He pays attention to things like that. I don't really have that information. At one point I thought maybe we can toss up a poll, but I don't see anywhere that we're ready to do that today. So Guy, bring this back when Alex is here, and I think he might be able to launch a poll from the back end. We'll see. Maybe we can do that tomorrow on the Friday show, or maybe on one of the heavily attended days, and we'll find out exactly how many people listen versus watches. I know I have done both. I know I watch it pretty consistently, even the nights and the days that I'm not on. But during the show, I'm generally here, so I don't know. Next question.
All right, this is one of my own questions. Zoom participants' video seemed fine in a meeting, but due to some unstable frame rates being received, ISO recording and mimoLive ended up at 15 instead of 30 FPS. Tried fixing it in post. Major audio drift, made tweaks, but then video suddenly speeds up, and it speeds up at the end of near the end for some reason.
Ronnie Hossoy is going to help you out. Ronnie?
Yeah, I've seen this in the previous version happening, not only in mimoLive, but in other tools as well. The reason for this happening is probably something you know. Zoom can vary the frame rate and even resolution. And when you put that into an editor, your editor will not be able to understand what is happening because it's not a human. And what is actually happening is that the recorded file is reported for example, being 30 frames per second, whereas the content actually is probably closer to 15, maybe a variation between 15 and whatever is coming from Zoom because of the way mimoLive previously recorded what came in from Zoom. So in the newer version, this has been fixed. We verified that a few days back and did a really good recording session where everything was in sync. So repairing this is really a pain in the you-know-what. I'm so lucky I have a few people in my studio that I can just... can you fix this, maybe? It's a little bit weird. And maybe you don't have the same option, but my crew will happily help you fix that. It's a lot of manual labor, and I haven't found any automatic fix for this, regardless of what software is recording this and making this error happen.
Alexander, you want to come back in?
Yeah, it's just I'm trying to avoid telling my client, hey, you know that awesome interview that went so well, we're gonna have to re-record the entire thing. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. It's bad. The drift was so bad. I finally sort of got it pretty close, and then as I'm like playing back the episode and looking through it, the video like close to the end after I had changed the frame rate to 30. All of a sudden, it's like it speeds up like for no reason. And I don't know if I can fix this by reprocessing the video. The one thing I haven't tried yet, because I have a copy of Apple Compressor. The other thing I haven't tried is actually maybe running it through Apple Compressor and doing like a re-encode at 30 and seeing.
Yeah,
so I'm going to try that.
Something stable. Yeah,
I'm going to try that and see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, well, we got to re-record it.
Ronnie, you had another thought?
Yeah, the problem here is that the recorded file is said to be 30 frames per second, but the content is varying. So the problem here is you can't just re-encode it. It will never work. The speed ramping will still be there even if you try to rework it. So the only thing we can do manually to do that is to actually add or remove some of the speed ramping and try to use cutaway angles. If this is a presentation, of course, you could just throw the presentation in front of everything, or try to obfuscate the actually lip sync that is going to be off. So I have no idea. Maybe use some AI to do the lip syncing manually.
Yeah, cutaways. Get the presentation, and anytime you have a problem, cut away to the presentation. So the audience doesn't notice what's going on. We feel your pain, Alexander. We've all kind of been there. Hey, don't forget, we have additional shows that are coming up being mounted. Today is Thursday, which means The Rundown with David Paskin is going to be on tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific time, whatever that tracks to in your part of the world. He hosts a panel that takes a deep dive into the why behind the latest tech. Always fun to watch David's show. We also are doing extra hours on Monday for those around the world for whom the main show timing doesn't fit quite well, and we have special shows occasionally that show up on Tuesdays, or who knows, maybe at some point they'll go on other days and other times. But we do have additional content, so check out officehours.global, the website, for more details on that stuff. Next question.
Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington's SRT Mini Server for Mac Silicon?
This must be some announcement that Guy ran into, but Guy wasn't able to join us this morning, so I don't really know that much about SRT or this mini server, but it sounds like he's got a link there, justminiserver.com, justminiserver.com. So if you're looking for information about this particular topic, I'm sure it'll come up on the show if this is something new in the IT world that can help people who do video kind of productions. We'll be talking about it more as we come up. Next question.
Next question is coming from Paul Vahus in Austin, Texas. For a small community radio station, is the Chameleon C4 a good solution for AI program audio processing, or is there something better?
And Alexander Knight's going to help us out a bit.
Well, I looked at this. There's nothing artificial intelligence about this. It's just it's there's
RI, regular intelligence.
I don't know where you're getting that from, Paul, but this is an analog audio processor that has also digital inputs as well. It'll do AES as well as analog. Angry Audio makes really cool products. I'm sure it's a great product. I'd love to actually test it out because I'd love to have this on my live stream. But it looks like it's basically a multi-band compressor with some AGC in there as well. And I like the fact that, I don't know, I'll see if I can pull it up here, a photo of it, but it has presets. One of my dreams is getting an appliance in here for my live streams to loudness normalize in real time to a specific target that I want. And one of the recent things that I did recently in my setup was, because I use mimoLive for my production, I have audio coming out of mimoLive over Dante going into my mixer, and then I'm processing it there, and then it's going back over Dante into mimoLive, and then out to program, which is going out to the live stream. So this is I would love to use a piece of hardware like this in my setup. So basically it has presets. Where is it? They've got a photo of it showing it. But there's a switch. You can actually, anywhere from -14 LUFS to -24 LUFS, you can actually set the broadcast loudness target, and it will process the audio in real time. It has a headphone jack for monitoring, so the engineer can check and see how the audio is being processed, make sure it sounds good as well. So I don't have a price on this product. Like all Angry Audio products, they tend to be on the more affordable side of things. So, hey, Angry Audio, send me one of these things. I'll test it for you.
Fingers crossed. Next question.
This one's from David Brady in New York City, New York. Fabricating custom enclosures. Do you prefer do-it-yourself, or have you outsourced to a company like DataPro?
For me, over the course of my career, that's always been a time versus money issue. Do I need it fast? And if so, do I have time to mess with it? I did find, I got to tell you a little story. Once upon a time, I realized that paying somebody to do something who does it all the time often gets you a much better result than trying to do it yourself. Not that all of us haven't found ourselves short of cash and long on time and said, okay, I'm just going to try to build this. But I had somebody build a wall once for me, and I had thought for a minute about doing it. It was just a simple block wall between two properties, and I thought, I did some of that stuff when I was a kid. I watched the crew who I hired come out and do that, and they were just brilliant. And at the end of the day, the thing was perfect, and they had done it efficiently. And yes, I paid more money for it, but these were people who do this particular job every single day, and they did it vastly better than I could ever have hoped to, because I didn't do it every day. So I learned my lesson about DIY. There are things that I'm doing for myself that don't have to be perfect, and I enjoy making them happy, and I enjoy pulling the tools out, and it's kind of like a relaxing break to be able to fiddle with a mechanical project. But I am not a professional at it. And sometimes you get to the point where professionals actually save you money because they don't eat up a ton of time and you get it done right the first time. My 2 cents. Next question.
This one is from Pedro G. Gonzalez III in Washington, D.C. I want to use compression to even out the volume levels in some movies. How should I go about doing this, and what potential issues should I watch out for? TVs connected to digital mixer.
Okay, Ronnie Hofsoy is going to help you out here.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what you are trying to achieve. If this is kind of just overall lowering the dynamic range of the entire movie from the low sounding parts to the really explosive things, a compressor would probably be right. If this is kind of an evening adaptation, like you find in for instance, Apple TV has on most of the apps, you have a night settings where you can reduce all the plosives, etc. And if that is your goal, to trying to compress everything and actually reduce the dynamic range, you should absolutely just use a compressor and try to fiddle with different settings. I'm not going into that weeds now. The other thing to think of, if this is just more like a limiter for the absolutely just to stop the explosive sounds coming through, I would just use a limiter, set it to react really fast, and have a kind of 10-to-1 compression on that one. And the limiter would then just be like a brick wall limiter. You can have audio coming up to this level and no further. So you have to look into choosing between those two.
Alexander Knight.
Oh, Pedro, please don't do this. First of all, if you get audio into your mixer now, I'm guessing you don't have a multi-channel setup if it's stereo. If you have a multi-channel setup, you're basically going to be sending PCM audio in your console, so you're going to lose the multi-channel audio. Movies are meant to be dynamic. This stuff is mixed to be very, very dynamic. Quiet parts are quiet, loud parts are loud. I don't understand why you'd want to ruin that by doing this and over compressing and squashing everything so it's just kind of flat and boring. If late night listening is a challenge in your environment and you have an issue with some program content being too dynamic where it's hard to hear dialogue, that is certainly understandable. What I do, I mean, my integrated amplifier has a headphone jack, so if I'm watching something a little bit later at night and I can't really turn it up to the volume that I would like, I just plug in a really nice set of headphones and listen to it that way, as loud as I would like, because I would much rather do that than squash the dynamics of a perfectly crafted mix that was done by very skilled individuals in a theater, and it was designed for that. So I would try to keep it the way it was intended to.
I understand all these things, and I'm going to go in a slightly different direction, and I'm going to suspect – I'm not suspecting. I'm just wondering whether, like me, the fact that as you go through life, your hearing sometimes changes. And I'm finding that occasionally my wife's saying, hey, why do you have the TV up so loud? And I noticed that when I'm listening on headphones or my AirPods or something like that, I have no problems at all. But when I'm in a room environment, maybe my hearing is diminishing a little bit on one side or something like that, to the point where the dynamic range is falling below where I'm comfortable and I'm having trouble hearing things. So I find myself raising the entire volume of the whole thing, making the louds too louds and things like that. I'm not suggesting you have a hearing problem. I'm suggesting that as you run into these things where you're having to use tools to change something that was done by a set of professionals like a movie to be one way to get a satisfying thing out of it, there may be something going on like that. I will also say that famously some directors use huge dynamic ranges, and they get a lot of complaints about, I can't hear the dialogue in these scenes, and the music is too loud here, because they've kept so much dynamic range that all but the best playback systems in a theater that is set up for maintaining that and is perfectly isolated from the outside world where you can hear every little nuance, their mix may be giving you problems. So don't just try. I think the overall advice here is don't just try to squash everything down and make it the middle. That's not what real sound in the real world is all about. We hear things that are loud and we hear things that are quiet. So just some thoughts, Pedro. Hope you have success in getting it done. And if compressing is the way you need to do it, it's your content. Do what you need. Next question.
This one is coming from David Brady in New York City, New York, using a Decklink Duo and a Sonnet SE I Only, able to get signal on 3 of the 4 taps. What is the cause and, more importantly, the fix?
Ronnie Hofsoy.
There could be several reasons for this happening. It could be software related, but the times, I would say 8 of 10 times, maybe 9.5 out of 10 times when this happens with our own cards, it's me or one of my colleagues forgetting which of the plug is the reference in signal. So be sure to check that you actually are counting 1, 2, 3, 4 from the correct end of the card. So that the one closest to the port is the reference signal, and it's not output 1. That you normally would think it was. It's actually the opposite. So it starts with the reference in, and then it goes on with 1, 2, 3, 4. That is one of the things. There could be suspicions to what type of Thunderbolt speed you are running at, and which type of cable you are using. I have my Thunderbolt cables from OWC, which is really high quality. And nowadays I just get the Thunderbolt 5 ones. But I'm pretty sure that 4 signals going out of that box on Thunderbolt easily can be done even in Thunderbolt 2. So I don't think the bandwidth on the Thunderbolt is the problem. There could be another thing if there are other high bandwidth devices running on the same Thunderbolt bus, that could be the culprit. So unplug everything else, test the card, and make sure you are starting to count from the correct number 1.
Next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. At a 1080p output, what would be the smallest font size you would recommend for slide graphics, 20, 30, 40 point fonts?
Ronnie Hofsoy.
Well, I'm actually, I shouldn't be answering this question because I have a very, very problematic relationship with PowerPoint and Keynote. We started like 15 years back and telling our clients to not use more than 7 words on the slide if you need to have wording on it or a sentence that tells something. And what we've seen even the other week, there are small stories like 4,000 characters, and no one understands why the audience is not engaged in the presentation. And this is so huge a problem, and you should try for everything that is possible to reduce the number of words, not think in pixels even. If you need to be thinking in pixel or font size, headlines typically 40 to 50. Make sure that you have most of that on one line, so never more than 6-7 words at the title level. And if you're going to have a text, make sure it's really readable and have spacing between it, and use a font that is really readable, not serif fonts. Use sans fonts, and keep them above 20 for all practical means, or just throw the text out altogether.
Yeah, good ideas. And generally, one of the things that I pay attention to now is people are using smaller and smaller screens. A lot of people are watching your content on phones, on little tiny monitors that they have at home, maybe an iPad somewhere that's in a kitchen, and they might be 6 feet away at the refrigerator kind of looking at the TV. And so that text is going to be impossible if it's down in the 10, 15 point range. There's just no hope for somebody in that kind of situation to be able to read the content you're putting on there. So understand that the way you're seeing it at your desk when you're a foot and a half away from your computer screen is not necessarily how people are going to consume it in the field. And I think Ronnie's rule, we used to have the same thing in designing billboards when I was working in advertising. You get 7 words. He's exactly right. It's the same thing. People are driving by and they're not going to retain more than that in the brief time they look at it. And in today's world where content keeps moving past them on their phones and they keep scrolling by, it's the same thing. Small means unread. And so just understand that. Next question.
Paul Volhus in Austin, Texas. Compare the Sumo 19 SE impresses with its 1200 nit HDR touchscreen to other on-set monitors like the Atomos Ninja 5 and the DJI Crystal 5, which I kind of like.
I don't have experience with all those. I used to use a Sumo as one of our on-set monitors, and it's brilliant. Those are really lovely screens. I also like the fact that it has a hard drive slot on the right side that I could always know that whatever was on the screen was going to get captured, so that even if the camera failed, I had a backup for that. I like that about the Sumos. I have not used the Ninja 5 or the Crystal 5, but there are great tools out there. If you can afford it and you have the budget for these things, I don't think you can go wrong with the Blackmagic, the Ninja, the Atomos Ninja series. I had very good results with them using them on set. Next question.
This one is coming from Harold Williams in Portsmouth. I'm interested in purchasing a Mix Pre 3 and would like some assurances that I will be able to sync it with my other cameras and recorders. Currently, I'm using a Deity TC-1. I would appreciate any suggestions you may have.
Ronnie's going to help you out here, Ronnie.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a hunch of what you're trying to do. And what I have been doing is to have a sync coming from the camera. So the Mix Pre series of, if I can get it to focus here, just a moment, has its own micro HDMI. It's not focusing. No, I have to change my camera. It has a camera input that if you get your camera to be synced up first, and then just plug that HDMI coming from that synced camera that you're using as a reference signal, plug that into the Mix Pre. It will lock onto that timecode and use that afterwards. Of course, you could easily be seen doing that frequently throughout the day to just keep sync in sync. And regarding the DT, I guess that also have a sync output, and that can be probably put into your camera and then used as a reference. I'm not sure how you could do that, but I would absolutely read the chat afterwards and see if there are some good ideas coming up there.
If you value what we do here, there are some ways you can help if you'd like to. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's simple and easy and free. You can also volunteer at officehours.global/volunteer. That becomes part, and you can become part of the team that makes this all possible. Or you can donate. Make a simple donation at officehours.com/donate. So those are all ways you can help the show, and we truly appreciate it. We are a volunteer organization, and any help helps. Next question.
David Brady in New York City, New York. Museum of Obsolete Sounds, calling all sound librarians to make some contributions. What odd sounds do you think you have?
Too many, I would guess. I'm thinking about all the CD sound libraries, and early, I think I had a record or two, an LP that had sound effects when I was first exploring them as a kid. Those are undoubtedly long gone from my life. I will say that there are a lot of libraries that have come and gone. The companies that had theirs on physical media that didn't make the switch onto the web and some sort of a way to sell via the web are pretty much gone now. I had some specialist libraries. One of my favorite was a thing called Narrator Tracks, and they had mixed their music to be specifically to have sonic holes where the voice would lie. And so it wasn't very good to listen to in generic, but you put it behind a voice, it made the voice even more prominent. Now, there are other ways to do that with standard music, and people who know sound can do the same kind of thing. But those I used to use a lot. It wasn't the greatest music in the world, but it certainly was easy to narrate over. But hopefully you'll find what you like. He's got a link there, citiesandmemory.com, Obsolete Sounds. So somebody at the Museum of Obsolete Sounds. Sounds like fun. I wonder what the weirdest stuff they've got in their library is. Let's go to the next question.
Archie Trivedi in Daytona Beach, Florida, USA. Today marks the 13th Global Accessibility Awareness Day. What are your thoughts about GAAD, and how have you felt you have impacted it?
And luckily for us, Harshid's here. Harshid, can you tell us a little bit about GAAD?
Absolutely. So Global Accessibility, Global Accessibility Awareness Day. We are a global community here with Office Hours Global. So it impacts me personally. How I ask this question is, in this digital media that we live in, I really believe in media first, or how we do this with being virtual. We could call it virtual first or media first, however you want to put in those terms. But the important piece here is to also note that when you do make your organization business, can anybody visit your website? Most websites are inaccessible, and therefore I'm not going to give you my money. Isn't that what you guys want, is my money? So that's kind of the way of thinking about digital accessibility. If I go to the Lion King show at Dr. Phillips in Orlando, I would like that I could probably see the costumes and stuff beforehand. So that works in theater. If I were to watch a film, I could have audio described movies, and I could go watch it with a sighted counterpart, a lady friend of mine or something, and enjoy the same bits as anybody else. So those are just a couple avenues. Your website is obviously digital experiences, so we get in through our phones, our computers, Mac, Windows, etc. So I just wanted to bring this to people's attention. I made a mistake. It's actually the 14th year that this has been going on with the Global Accessibility Awareness Day. But hopefully I could hear more about you guys or see what impacts it makes for you. And if you ever have questions, just note that Office Hours Globals does have an accessibility Discord section. So we always love helping our colleagues, friends, and whomever else in between, because we want to make sure that everybody could view and share the media and the thoughts as you are today. So thank you so much for everybody.
Thank you for being here so often and for helping us understand these things. I love the fact that in Office Hours mission statement, there is this line where no one is left behind. That's 100% in alignment with what Harshita's just been talking about, and we do our best and want to continue to encourage everyone to do their best in making this content available to everybody, regardless of anything else. Ronnie, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, we've been doing the style sheet recommendations from EU region in Norway for ages. Building websites without thinking of this would be regarded as not a good thing to do. We also have a production in progress, which is going to have real-time texting. We have a sign language interpreter. We probably also would have translations going on in multi-channel audio. So we are working with all these, but the budgets from many of these companies that should be thinking of this is not it's not there yet, even 20 years after. So it's sad to see that this is a missed opportunity for a lot of organizations around the globe.
Next question.
Alvahus in Austin, Texas. What possible use case could there be for these earbuds that cost $3,000?
Whoa, audio46.com, it says there, final audio at A1000 in-ear headphones. I don't know. Maybe we have some dogs who watch the show. Their hearing is far more acute than humans. I'm being a little silly about it, but obviously, I mean, there are some people with golden ears who have trained themselves to really hear acutely, and maybe they have the physicality to be able to hear signals that most of us can't. I've never, I did have a conversation in college with somebody who was an acoustician, and he was talking about the overtone series and how much the things you can't hear add to what you can hear kind of subtly. But everybody wants to speak to this, so we're going to go to Harshit. Harshit, your thoughts?
Yeah, so the name kind of confuses me, but I've heard of 64 Audio, for example, and sometimes their stuff does go into the $1,000, $2,000 range. Sony on their high-end stuff also are quite pricey, and so again, where do you want to go with the said device? If it's earbuds or what have you, what's your end goal? I mean, if it's just listening to fancy music, I mean, you could spend $3,000 if you want.
Maybe you can hear the second violinist doing a page turn in the third act if you get these. Who knows? Ronnie Hofsøy, your thoughts?
Well, there are expensive cars, there are expensive luggage containers, and there are expensive things in all categories that we would like to think is better than all the rest. I would say that for in-ears there is a absolute maximum price that I will never go beyond. This is something that is put in my ear. It's not even formed like my more expensive in-ears that are actually formed to my ear canal in a proper way. Come on, camera, focus. Okay. And And these types of products there are probably customers, and they are selling more than just the audio experience. It's more about the brand, maybe everything around it. So I'm not sure I would go for this.
Alexander Knight.
I'm not sure I would spend $3,000. I might. I mean, my current in-ear monitors were pretty expensive. I bought the flagship Westone Audio, the Pro X50s, which are quintuple driver ones. They're like $800. And I can tell you, after trying many different IEMs from like single, dual, triple driver, the previous ones that I had were triple driver from Westone Audio, and these ones were a big upgrade, and it kind of spoils you. And now I use these actually for mixing, even in a live environment, because I always check my mixes with headphones. So I find that I can really trust these ones. They're not hyped in any kind of way in the high end or have exaggerated low end. They're very well balanced. So, you know, I could see myself maybe one day spending $3,000 on them. But they generally, you get what you pay for, and they can make a big difference.
Let's go to, you know something? I was going to go to the next question, but it is the top of the hour already. And, we got a hand raiser, so let's do one more, and then we'll call it there.
Okay, last question is from Jeff Veely in Henderson, Texas. Is there any way to use a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 wirelessly as part of a live stream?
Ronnie Hofsoy, take it on.
I would think of the only way to do it is to grab the screen video that you have on your phone. But I don't know anyone has actually got that to work. I know the NRK, the Norwegian national broadcaster, did hack some of the firmwares of the older Osmo Pockets and actually made an output work using modified firmware. I would not recommend you do that. You will probably lose your warranty. And another way to do it is to use the Osmo Mobile and use your phone. And on the phone, you use a good app that is actually just streaming NDI or whatever you would like to use in your broadcast instead.
Jeff, hope that helps. Thank you all for being a part of the show today. We appreciate your contributions here. To all of you who just watch and put questions in, you are our producers, and we appreciate the fact that this show doesn't exist without you. So thank you for being here, asking your questions, and doing what you do every day. To the panelists, thank you all for showing up today to be a part of Office Hours. We can't do this without you and your answers as well. And to our amazing back-end crew, the people who are silent during the show, but who touch controls and plan and do so many things that you can't even imagine. If you watch the credits roll at the end of here, you will see some of their names, but not everyone. And it's been a privilege to be able to work with everybody in this system for now going on 5 years. It's been major fun. Our stats today are to lock traversal. If you are part of this, I don't see the stats up anywhere here, so I guess maybe I'm missing. Oh, here they are. 85,000 miles. That's how far you would have had to travel to get the people answer your questions today. 40,000 kilometers. That is 195 million bananas for scale. We'll be back tomorrow doing the same thing over and over again. And tonight, don't forget, Thursday night, it's David Paskin's Rundown on Office Hours, 6 p.m. Pacific. See you tomorrow. Thank you all for being here.
I need a virtual studio.
Yeah, I need it first.
I wish we'd had a full hour for that. There was so much, obviously, to explore there, and that was fun.
And that was good virtual. Don't do virtual backgrounds.
Well, yeah. Throwing up a bad laptop computer camera virtual background is one thing. Doing it at the level that Nick and those guys do it, totally different thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you have a display, that's no problem. But if you see the Socially You guys doing the same thing on the green screen, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
Happy Global Accessibility Awareness Day, Laura, and nice to see you.